God save us all.
What happened?
God save us all.
God ain't gonna save us.
All right, now everyone, it is time for our debate of the week. I want everyone to get involved with this. This is important, and this is especially important in modern American society and current events and American news. We got about 5 minutes for this debate. So here's the deal. Mexican immigration. Okay, here's the questions. Should Mexican immigrants be deported? Should there be a tax on money orders going to Mexico? This is convenient on the notion that they're immigrants and they don't pay taxes. Putting a tax on the money orders is a derogative to allowing them to paying some sort of tax because they're not paying taxes on their labor. Are they taking our jobs, and are they actually contributing to the economy, or are they just sending all the money to Mexico, which is now untaxed? So, if I may, I would be very interested to know with these topics what people's stances are. Now, I know that there are some pre-selected stances for or against this.
I am for.
So, you think Mexican immigration, you don't think they should be deported?
No.
You're against deporting them, you're basically defending Mexican-American immigrants.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen?
If they have a workers' pass and they're legally allowed to be here, keep them here.
Well, of course, but what about
if they're not? If they don't, get them the fuck out. I don't really care. If they can't show tax ID card, they should be taxed on their money orders. And what the fuck else?
Aiding to our economy?
Do they help our economy, or do they really don't buy a lot? What do you think?
I really don't think they do too much for our economy. It's like overpopulated.
Okay,
and our job, they're taking the jobs that nobody really wants.
Okay, Tracy?
So,
I don't think they should be deported.
All 12 million of them should be allowed here?
I'm
illegally?
divorcing you.
I'm sorry, baby girl.
And I know it's a good thing you have that stance because everyone is like the opposite for the most part.
Yeah,
it's good you're taking that stance. So the next question: the taxing of money orders if they're not paying taxes.
If they're not paying taxes, then yeah, they should be taxed.
Okay.
But I don't think it should be like a ridiculous fee.
No.
This is based on the notion that most of them have a minimal amount of money, and if they were paying taxes, it would be around 17%.
I think that if they're here legally, and like, I don't know, if it's for different situations, if there's a family involved, or they're here to help a family that's back there, then they shouldn't be deported.
Okay.
Anybody,
well,
that's playing pity cards.
Okay, so you're against
pity cards
because
not
they
fair.
don't have the money.
Okay, so all right. You can't say that. You're against deportation. That's what most of them are doing. You're against deportation because there would never be a legislation written like that in American law. So you're against deportation.
American law is pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Glad somebody said it.
They don't.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. We all agree. Just nobody said we should say it.
The law you asked to have passed that has heart. That wouldn't happen. So you're against deportation. Please use yes or no questions.
Yes.
We're running out of time. Okay. And
yes.
Should there be a tax on money orders if they're not paying taxes?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they taking our jobs?
Yes.
Are they helping our economy?
No.
Okay. I'll just briefly give my stance. Okay. Mexicans, if they do not have an American citizenship, should most definitely be deported. In their defense, perhaps we can establish a quota system, just like all other immigrants in all other countries when there's an immigration issue. For example, in Europe, when there were too many European Americans immigrating, they said X amount from X amount of country can come in. Should there be a tax on money orders if they're not paying taxes? Absolutely. They are technically laundering billions of dollars a year. Are they taking our jobs? Overall, no. But they are taking the jobs of teenagers. I have a difficulty getting jobs in waitering positions because they are taking my jobs. My last job I actually left because the Mexicans took over and formed an unofficial union. Are they aiding our economy? Minimal with food and minimal with alcohol and necessary supplies, but other than that, absolutely not aiding our economy. The money goes back to their country, which is untaxed and undeclared. So let's have a debate here. Okay, so should Mexican Americans be deported? If you feel they shouldn't, why should 12 million people who are illegally here and costing taxpayers a lot of money, that's all factual, why should they be allowed here and costing us a lot of money? For what reason? Jason, for what reason?
Because we could, figure out a way where they could be taxed and, help the economy, work to find a way to fixing the problem.
That is a good solution, but these people, the 12 million people that came here, they hide from us. They don't want to cooperate. They don't want to be declared and written on paper and have workers' papers. They don't cooperate. There are ones who do cooperate. The ones that cooperate, we already do work with.
So start investigating diners and stuff like that, because you can easily find them.
So now
That's such a stereotype.
You're now
diners, restaurants, and stuff like that. A lot of them work there.
That's
Yeah,
that and landscaping.
That's really not a
Landscaping
stereotype.
work
Or go to
It's
perhaps you want to change your statement to menial work, uneducated
or
work.
perhaps this is a stereotype of like the Mexicans that stand on the corner of the street in Patterson, which I saw when I went to go to my.
It's not a stereotype.
Yeah.
All immigrants start at the bottom of the food chain. Well-known fact.
Everybody starts at the bottom of the food chain and works their way up. Everybody's entitled to have a happy life. Where you find that life and how you find it, that's up to you.
Exactly. Indians. People from India who have MDs and are doctors
Are doing shit over here.
are fucking working at Dunkin' Donuts. So to say that that's a racist statement against Hispanics, it's not true. Everyone starts at the bottom of the food chain no matter what. You could be a medical doctor. You're
That's
fucked
true.
when you come to America. Okay, so now your statement is kind of like, after what I said, you're now what? It's slightly altered now?
Not too much though.
Slightly now, or?
Yeah, slightly, but not too
Okay.
much.
So, and you agree that they should be deported?
Yeah.
And why?
I mean, our country's already overpopulated as it is. There's not doing much for our economy. Why do we have them here? They're doing menial work. They're taking work away from other people. But on the same hand, I do agree with you guys. I mean, but... So I guess after what you said, I am slightly altered, but I'm still sticking to my decision.
Okay, and, Tracy, you feel they shouldn't be deported.
I
Why?
feel they shouldn't. Because, like I said, everyone has the right to be happy. And if they're working their ass off here, because they get 16, 20-hour shift days, go home for 4 hours, sleep for maybe an hour because they have families to feed, and,
Right.
they're doing more work than the average American.
The legislation in this country allows them to receive more than triple of their salary in financial government aid, even though they're not citizens. And
that's not true. You have to be a citizen.
oh no, you don't.
No, you
no,
don't.
you
It
don't.
doesn't matter how many hours they work here.
Not to
The
be
money they
racist.
make here is worth more in Mexico.
Not to be racist, if we end up eating at the diner like we always do, if you speak Spanish, ask them how to get free money from the government. They will go on for hours. I am not kidding.
It was
And
on the
it's-
news.
It's
yeah,
on
it was
the
on
news.
the news.
There's a million and one ways. There's more financial aid for them than citizens.
Everybody finds ways to cut corners. So.
I know.
Yeah, but that's a big way. It was a news segment when they were picketing and having protests.
Yeah, if your statement was in a nutshell and that's how it was, it would be great and I'd be on your side. But we hand out way too much free money to them, and that's what costs
This
us
is true.
money.
And
then the people that actually need the money.
Exactly.
Don't get it.
Yeah.
If the government wasn't handing them checks and it was just work for your living, and then send it to your country to support your family, I'd be like, hey, welcome to America. And you know what? I'd say give them more money, make sure they get minimum wage. Problem is, they work the system and they get the free money and it hurts us. It's not them being here, it's the government giving them all this money that causes the problem.
On top of that, sometimes they will be working under the table and getting money, and then on top of that, since they're under the table, the government doesn't know they're working.
And then they apply
so
for
they're getting
welfare.
the free money for the welfare.
Oh, here's the thing. Anyone who has a family, whether
And
they're
also not working
citizens,
with welfare.
non-citizens, job, non-job, doesn't matter. If you have a family, you are entitled to welfare. You could have hopped the fence a week ago. If you have kids, they're giving you money. And that's what they do. Doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. You could
It's
you
if
could
your
be
kids are born here.
you could be a non-citizen. Your kids could have been born in Mexico, and they could know that you murdered 16 people in Mexico, and they will still give you checks. They will still give you checks. To do what you said, and one of two choices is to kind of fix the problem and get some of the immigrants out, or do nothing at all and let them deplete our financial funds. What are you gonna do? All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. We gotta do this debate off the air. So WRFR Broadcasting now concludes the broadcast of the Randy fucking Radger Show.